Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm your backup host, Cesar Hernandez. We're here to talk about both of these call-ups. We're here to talk about the Clasico Nacional, maybe a little bit about the Europeos, maybe a little bit about I don't know, guys. What else were you think? What else should we be talking about today?
I think we should dedicate the show to Manchester United winning 3 out of 3. So is Chelsea, both of them with brand new managers. And maybe Jason could let us know how Liverpool will fare against these two powerhouses. That'll be a good and exciting show.
There you go. We'll be talking about Manchester United for about the next 54 minutes. For all of you that tuned in specifically to hear about Mexican soccer, it's just gonna be about Manchester United. I'm just obviously messing with you guys.
I came here for the Polito episode. I thought this was the Polito episode of the Mexican Soccer Show. I didn't, false advertising on this, I think.
Anywho, obviously, Wisa's gone. I'm stepping in as a backup, so this show might be a little bit more strange. It might be better. Who knows? What if this is the best show that the Mexican soccer show has ever had? What if this by far, we're gonna have 5 million
What,
viewers?
what's up with Weasel? He's
I think he's a little camera shy after spending all that
what's
time in Mexico City and Guadalajara. He needs a little bit of a break. He needs a little bit of a break to kind of
what's up
calm
with Weasel? He has his hands full with the Tecate.
I guess. Yeah, I have
That's
no
fair.
idea. That's yeah. There we go. Good start. Good start. We're off to a brilliant start right now. Anywho, before we get into the call-ups for the Mexican national team, that's what I first wanted to talk about. Let me first introduce our guest for tonight. Our guest, which you probably are well aware who they are. Let's first go over to Jason in Philadelphia-ish. Jason, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Yeah, what a weekend, huh? I mean, everything that's going on with L3, and then certainly the no shortage of Liga MX headlines this weekend. So it was an interesting one. Plenty to talk about on the show. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Most definitely. Johnny Rico, who's about, I want to say if I look out my window far enough, I might be able to see you. If maybe wave back. Johnny, how are you doing? I want to say about 4 miles away from me, 5 miles away from me.
Do I need to wave all 5 fingers?
At least two it would be appreciated. At least two would be appreciated. Johnny, how are you doing? Maybe I
I've
don't
been
want to know
bet-
how you're doing. Maybe it'll just be the me
I've
and
been
Jason
better,
show.
actually. I've been better. Yeah.
Well, we all know why Johnny isn't feeling good. Johnny, do you wanna talk a little bit about why you're not feeling it right now?
I'm wearing a black shirt. I'm kind of in mourning right now, so please
Maybe
respect the process.
I don't know if you want to lay down on the couch. It could kind of be like a therapy session kind of situation here. You could
I,
just talk it through.
yeah, that would be nice.
Maybe we'll just talk about the Clasico Nacional for the entire 52 minutes now. Let's just talk about in detail about Chivas, the wonderful Chivas, how effective they were. But I'm just messing with you, Johnny. I'll be bringing that up later. I promise. All right. Let's first talk about El Tri. Let's first talk about the call-ups that Juan Carlos Osorio released last Thursday. Obviously, these call-ups have changed a little bit since there have been a significant amount of unfortunate injuries. But let me go through the list right now of these call-ups in case you haven't heard. So we have Chuy Corona, we have Talavera, we have Ochoa, we have Layun, we have Diego Reyes. Reyes' situation is still up in the air, but we'll talk about that later. We have Rafa Marquez, we have Ayala, we have Hector Moreno, Yasser Corona, Jorge Torres Nilo, Andres Guardado, Carlos Peña, Orbelin Pineda, Dueñas, Jesus Molina, Hector Herrera, Cándido, Aquino, Sepúlveda, Elias Hernandez, Raúl Jiménez, Aldivar, Martin Barragan, and Lozano. Hopefully, I didn't miss anyone. That was a little bit a little bit of a long list, guys. Let's talk about this. Let's just say is this a good list? Is this a list that will be enough to bring back success in national team, especially after that 7-0 victory? Jason, is this a good list? Will this be enough for Osorio to to succeed after the Copa America?
Well, I mean, it should be. I mean, there's enough talent on the roster to get things done. But I think overall, what it shouldn't be about Osorio. Like it should be about Mexico. So I mean, for Mexico, these games aren't really all that important. I mean, it doesn't really matter what happens in these games. It probably Osorio needs a win to kind of bolster his standing with the national team. You can understand that. And just for Mexico in general, just kind of getting back in winning form after the summer, you can understand that a bit. But it comes down to these games aren't very important. So the roster's fine. you could nitpick some things, and I'm sure we will. But like overall, I think the theory behind the roster is sort of correct in that you have a base of standard core players, and you have some newbies you're throwing in there that you're going to kind of test out, surrounded by a base core of the players that are generally going to be there. And I think that's how you try out new players. If you want to like incorporate new players and youth into the team, you don't just throw out an entire roster of that to go to these games. You would throw 3 or 4 guys in with some of that core surrounding them to kind of test them out with the national team and see how they do, surrounded by guys who are going to be there anyway. So I think that theory makes sense. There's certainly the guys on the list you don't want to see being there. There's a couple of those guys. There's probably a couple of guys you could say he deserves a spot, but I don't know. This is probably not the time that you need necessarily everyone that's super important for Russia being in these call-ups for these games right now.
Well, before we go to Johnny's answer, I mean, let's be real. Should if you were, let's say, if you were Hector Herrera, if you were Guardado, would you care about this with these 2 upcoming games? Would you really feel as if there's a need for you to really show up, make that trip over, and just for a qualifier that won't really mean much for you personally, since Mexico already has a spot guaranteed in the hexagonal? I mean, Johnny, how do you feel about it? Do you think if you were a player of that caliber, how would you feel about these 2 games? Johnny. Oh no. I think he just had to say what he had to say in the beginning. He's just a little worried about bringing up the Chivas talk later. But Jason, I mean,
that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I mean, how can you be excited about coming to these games? I mean, I guess like everyone's different, and you might be of that mindset, and you could certainly make the case that like a Guardado, kind of assuming that captain role, kind of on a permanent basis, like you could make a case that he's excited to just kind of take the lead and kind of lead toward more victories. But at the same time, I mean, you're thinking about some of these guys who are established in the team, traveling from Europe, as you said, Cesar. Like, I don't know. It's tough for matches like this where the result isn't very important, and the club season is just getting underway. And to go to something like this, I mean, I don't know. You can wave the flag and say yes, always proud to put on that shirt, that kind of thing. But these are tough matches. You got to say it.
I mean, yeah, I saw earlier, Tommy. There's no confirmation just yet that Reyes might stay. He might not actually show up just because he wants to work on his contract. Right now, if he stays in Porto, more than likely he's probably not going to get any playing time out there. He'll be a backup on the on the bench at best. Maybe get some fringe minutes every now and then. I mean, so I feel like I don't blame some of these players who might want to stay, might want to work on their European season that just started. I wouldn't blame them if they really, if not that. If they were to do that, but if they would just prefer that, yeah. I think personally. But I mean, I think the roster's fine. I don't think it's terrible. I mean, considering the injuries too, considering the opponents, I think Mexico should still be able to walk away with a couple of victories here. I think. I mean, obviously, it's a roster. No one's ever happy with any roster that comes out. It's rare that you see a roster where everyone is excited and thrilled about every single option that you have there on the national team. That just doesn't happen. But Jason, are there any players to you that stand out that you would think like, yeah, that guy should have been there, like, or you're a little confused why Osorio didn't bring him up?
Not really, not entirely. I mean, I mean, the only guy that was really in my mind who looks like he's not coming is Orbelin. So. Him coming now, I don't know. There's not huge misses here. I mean, I think there's a few guys that you can mention, but I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at Yasser and Gullit again. Those are tough pills to swallow, I think, at this point, because I mean, I think they've thoroughly proven themselves to not really have a place in the team, and to see them keep coming back. Like I said, I think you bring in some of those guys who are happy to be there, some of those veterans, and surround them by some trials and some youth. But like the guys that you're just wheeling back, who you don't really ever want to see play, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Johnny, we were just talking about Brizuela's second goal. What were your thoughts on Brizuela's second goal from the weekend?
Was that the one Paul Aguilar just stood there and waved his hand, hoping for a miracle?
Johnny, your thoughts on the roster. Your thoughts on roster. Maybe you could even say, if you want to, some players that you feel that are missing from the roster.
My thoughts on the roster are it's damn near the same roster that lost 7-0 to Chile. So if we're hoping for improvements, don't get your hopes too far up.
Mhm.
It should be good enough to beat El Salvador and Honduras, but it's still when you change nothing. Well, I hope you're not expecting different results. And it's kind of ironic me asking Osorio to change after everything he did at Copa America, but I don't want a big radical change. I just want to see something better, and by that I like Giovanni Dos Santos is one player who's missing and who could, just by one name, radically change the entire team. Um, just with his presence alone, you can play very differently. You can have different options, but I still have absolutely zero faith in Juan Carlos Osorio. Sure, I don't think El Salvador and Honduras will beat Mexico, but you know not putting too much stock on Osorio.
Honestly, I think I wouldn't have minded if Gio was in this roster. I think, as we've mentioned, these are this. No matter what the result is, if Mexico loses each match 10-0, they're still going to be in the hexagonal. For World
What
Cup
about 12?
qualifying. What was that?
What about 12?
or if they lose 15-0, it could be 40-0. Like it really wouldn't matter. I think I would have liked to have seen some new players. I would have liked to see. And honestly, I think with Gio, I think it would have been interesting to bring in someone who still, I think, is at the caliber. He's at least a bench option. I'm not saying that he should be starting. I'm not saying that he should be, working alongside Chicharito. Well, saying if Chicharito was healthy, but working alongside Chicharito, working alongside Hector Herrera, Guardado. I just still think that he is talented enough to be on the bench. And I would have liked for Osorio, or whether maybe it was Gio at least. I still don't know who turned down who. To at least meet and revisit and at least give each other an opportunity to find some reconciliation after what happened before the Copa America. So guys, anyone do you think? So no one specifically think is missing. We're not going to mention Picolin. No, not at all. No one thinks Picolin's a good option.
What about Kota? I mean, why aren't we seeing him getting called in? I mean, this is a guy that, for me, has been, even before he came to Chivas, has been one of the better goalkeepers in Liga MX. And I think it's probably time to kind of revisit the goalkeeper situation with Mexico a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're still talking about someone who's not probably going to be your main starter, but I think just continuing to bring back the same three goalkeepers all the time, I don't know. I'd just get somebody else in there. I'd like to see somebody like Kota who would kind of reward him for the last kind of really 2 calendar years he's had in Liga MX, which has been fantastic.
Well, here's a question for you guys. Right now, if Mexico had a game tomorrow and Talavera and Ochoa were injured, would you rather have Picolin or would you rather have Chuy Corona?
This is gonna sound very weird to Jason, but I'm going with Corona.
That is weird.
Jason,
he's right. He's correct, but it is very strange coming out of that mouth.
Interesting. First, I'm. You know what? I would not mind Picolin as a third option. I think.
Here's the thing.
I don't like saying that.
Here's the thing you forget about Picolin.
Here's the thing saying that.
Here's the thing you forget about Picolin. He might have a couple good performances here and there, but at the end of the day, he's still a Picolin, and that just means big, mess ups. I'm substituting right now because we're on air.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you. Thanks for keeping this PG-13.
Yeah, it's tough, but yeah.
No,
Picolin being a Picolin, he's gonna mess up sooner rather than later. The more minutes go on without him messing up, the more likely it becomes that he'll mess up.
I just think that if we're looking at Mexican goalkeepers in the league, I just think that he's a somewhat of a reliable option. But anywho, before we turn this into the Picolin show, as you can see, actually, my little avatar, I don't know if you guys can tell, just for the sake of just messing with some people, it actually is a little Picolin with a little national team logo. And I don't know if you guys actually saw on his Twitter account. I felt bad for that. And I don't think any other player gets more excited about a national team cult than Picolin. That guy, he decked out his like Twitter account after the last kind of call up. So it was like him with the national team jersey in the background. I kind of felt bad for it because he actually is recently. Someone sent him a tweet that said that like, oh, congratulations, we heard that you got called up, and he retweeted it.
That makes you feel bad for him?
I feel a little bad for him. All right, so
that brings a smile to my otherwise very dark day.
Yeah.
All right, so quick update for those who don't know. So there was a lot of news today just because of the injury. So the players who were injured who were therefore replaced. So first we had Paul Aguilar, who was injured, and Orbelin Pin.
Is he Aguilar out for the season?
Actually, I don't know if you're making a joke or not, but I have no idea about the details.
I hope he is. You know, that would benefit all parties involved if he was out for the season.
You really think that? Really, you're gonna? We'll get into this later when we talk about the Clasico Nacional. All right, so Paul Aguilar he was out, so we brought in Orbelin Pineda. Araujo was injured, we brought in Ayala, and then Tecatito was injured, so we brought in Elias Hernandez. I don't know if we're going to be if it's revisiting the question that I already asked you guys, but do you think that these are the correct substitutes? And I'll go to Jason. Do you think, or at the very least, just your thoughts on these substitutes?
Well, I was very happy to see Pineda come in. I think that's a great addition to the team, someone who should be in that roster. I don't know. Hugo Ayala, all right. That's fine. It's not the best. It's not really inspired thought. It's not really looking at finding someone else who's really going to play, because it's not someone who's really going to be playing in the future in any kind of meaningful matches. So, last minute substitute. I'm not going to be all bent out of shape about it. I'd like to see somebody else in there, but it is what it is. And Elias Hernandez, that's pretty good. Can't be too upset about that one. It's nice. I mean, certainly his play with Leon merits consideration. So get him in there, see what he can do. Well, I said we know what we can do, but I mean, it's a nice addition. Again, we'll see if it's really going to mean anything for Mexico moving forward. But you never know. He could find his way to locking up some kind of spot for the future. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Johnny, thoughts on the replacements? Honestly, I think Ant is actually a good summary of those replacements. There's nothing.
It's a summary of the entire roster. It's my summary of the entire roster.
It's
yeah.
Let's not forget, Yasser Corona is still in this roster. He was a starter against Chile, losing 7-0, and he's back in this roster. Why?
Yeah, man. Yasser isn't starting for Cholos. I know Tijuana's in first place right now, but Yasser, who
Tijuana's in first place because Yasser is riding the bench.
Honestly, that might be true. But Yasser Corona, I know everyone talks about Gullit, blah, 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 blah. That guy scored, at least the guy scored over the weekend. I wouldn't have called him up to the national team. But Yasser, oh my God, I have no idea what he's doing there. I don't know. Anywho.
They have a very talented social media manager. I've met him. His name is Vic. You don't need another social media manager. Get rid of Yasser Corona.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts on the roster before we start talking about the Clasico Nacional?
Let's move on.
Osorio just won't.
What, Johnny? What?
Just stall tactics.
All right, guys.
Time wasting.
All right, guys.
Just taking a dive and rolling around.
All right, guys. All right, Johnny Rico.
Just calling in.
Johnny Rico.
Mute that guy.
Calling in the cart.
Johnny Rico, take us through it. Johnny. Take us through. What was it like to? Actually, what? Let's be real. Johnny, you're obviously. Are you an America fan? I can't tell.
Yeah, no.
All right, so Johnny.
On the weekends.
How was it like for you watching it? Let us know what that was like. Tell us what was going on in your mind. How did you, an Americanista, feel about this match on Saturday night? For those who don't know, Chivas won 3-0 in the Estadio Azteca. Johnny, how did you feel about it?
Well, are you talking about the day it happened? It was a bit of disbelief.
Yeah.
I went to bed comfortably because it still hadn't set in that this really, really did happen. It was kind of a bit of a shock. Like if an airstrike or bomb landed on my neighbor's house, I probably would have got startled a bit. But the reality of a bomb hitting wouldn't have, hit me until the next day, which it did. You know, um, Sunday I did absolutely nothing. I lounged around the house.
So far, you haven't said anything about the game.
Oh, you asked me how I felt. Did you ask me about the game?
I was
Did you
assuming
ask me about the game or how I felt? This is your fault for the question you proposed.
I was assuming you would talk about the game. You're not gonna say anything about the game.
Questions.
Tell us about the game, Johnny.
Oh, the game. America horrible defending. Chivas scores goals. End of story.
You know what? Let's go to Jason. You know what? Jason, come on. Tell us about the match.
Okay. Well, it was shocking to me. I didn't expect anything like that. I thought it'd be like one of those, I don't know, cagey Clásicos, where it's just a lot of scrapping and fighting and not a lot of action in front of the goal. And it was the complete opposite of that. I mean, in many ways. I mean, Chivas obviously played amazingly that day, but I mean, it's been coming. I mean, the build-up has been coming with them for a while now, and I guess like you expect. I mean, at least I've grown to expect them to come up into that big spot against their hated rival, and to not perform to their best of their abilities, and they certainly did. You saw that link up. I mean, I don't know. I've been watching the way Brizuela's been playing for a while now, and it's been building. And his play on Saturday was fantastic, and that link up with Chofis was really special. What they had going through the midfield there, but I mean, the most surprising thing to me was just how much space they had to operate with America's midfield and defense, just kind of allowing them to operate freely. And I mean, it was a lot of what Chivas was doing right. That quick passing, that quick movement, always just so much movement in that midfield going forward. Really, just America had no answer for it. But I mean, for me, the most surprising thing was the way that America just kind of let it happen. They just kind of sat back and took it. And I mean, and this is a team that, for as much as I despise them, the thing that you look at them and what they do above anything else is that they don't take shit lying down. Like if the pressure's on them, they're going to fight back. And sometimes it actually is fighting. But there is a fight back, and there wasn't a whole lot of fight back on Saturday. I think that was the thing that stuck out to me the most.
I think America was a little. I forget if it was Tom who said this, but that America were just shell shocked. By the time the 32nd minute rolled around, Brizuela has already scored twice on America, and it wasn't as if these were lucky goals. It was just Chivas were looking dynamic. They were looking exciting. They were obviously they were the superb team. They're by far the better team of that first half. And I think that it's just as you mentioned, it was weird to see, at least, especially America's defense. It's one thing for Chivas to really step up and do well, but there was something really strange going on about the defense.
So what Jason was saying about America being known to fight back when the tough gets going. I actually wrote on Sunday. I let myself take the night to process it, and then I took to the keyboard on Sunday and I wrote how America has turned their back on their identity, and this is what Jason was saying, how they're known to fight back in tough times. This whole Peláez and Ambriz era, they've talked about the humbleness, their work ethic, the humbleness they go about doing things. That's just not America. Humility and humbleness, that has absolutely no place at Club America. America is supposed to be the arrogant, top team. They can lose a game, but it's the way you handle yourself throughout the entire process that's the big. That's what's kind of hard to swallow.
Okay. So Johnny, would you say it's fair? Would you say it's fair that Ambriz should be fired?
Yes, definitely.
Who would you want to step in in his place?
Off the top of my head, I'd go with Javier Aguirre.
Interesting.
I haven't really given it a lot of thought, but yes, what Ambriz and what Peláez are doing. That's just not what Club America is. Club America is not the type to go and buy a Silvio Romero, to add to the depth of the team. America's the type to go out and buy a big name international striker.
Like Zlatan? Why wasn't Zlatan playing, Johnny? Zlatan should have been there, right? What's he doing to Manchester United, right? He should be over here, Mexico City.
Zlatan might be a little, far-fetched, but you know who was,
Just a little.
you know who was within reach? Fernando El Niño Torres. There's a good relationship.
Was that really in reach? Was that really within reach? I'm not sure if that was really within reach.
His contract was done at Atletico, or close to being done. I think there was a year left, and Atletico and America have a really good working relationship. If negotiations would have proceeded correctly, Fernando El Niño Torres would have been within reach.
I don't believe that at all. I do not believe that for a second that would have happened. Not at all. I would have never. He'd be more likely. I would see him more likely. Actually, nowhere in Mexico. Nowhere at all. I can't see him.
You can't see a 34-year-old Spanish striker in Mexico.
I can't see a certain player named Fernando Torres coming over to Mexico.
Yeah.
Anywho.
So Johnny, I have a proposition.
There we go.
Being that you're going to need a new manager here in the short offing, can we? I mean, I assume we have the power to negotiate for our clubs here. Do you think we can do a manager swap? Is that something you'd be interested in?
No, but now that you mentioned,
I like that idea. Let's just see that.
But now that you mentioned Cruz Azul manager, I would not be opposed to the idea of Guillermo Vázquez Jr. coming to America. Yeah. I hear he's without a job, and I think he'd be a good fit.
Anywho, going back to the Clasico Nacional,
he did go a long way to handing them a title very recently, so it's fitting.
Right. So this was a trophy of Venezuela. It was a match that really, I mean, I almost feel like it's unfair just to focus on those two players, because I felt as if Chivas, all the starting 11, they did extremely well against America. And I will say that America in the second half, after a couple tactical changes that Almeida made during halftime, they seemed to at least steal back a little bit more possession. They seemed to at least be more likely to find a goal. But in the end, it was Gullit, who ended up finding the third goal of the match, and who ended up scoring. I know, Johnny, would you say that it's fair that Chivas ruined the 100-year anniversary?
Chivas played their part in ruining it. The anniversary got ruined with the lack of a commemorative jersey, with the lack of a friendly match against a big team, with the lack of a big name signing, and now the Clasico. It all comes together to ruin the Centenario. So Chivas played their role, but they didn't completely ruin it by themselves. They had a lot of help.
I could sense a little bit of Johnny right there, just not wanting to put it all on Chivas. He just wants to spread it all out.
There's a lot of factors that go into ruining a 100th anniversary, and Chivas did their part. I'll give him that.
All right, Jason. Before we wrap up anything on the Clasico Nacional, I know your thoughts on Chivas, your thoughts on America. Maybe why isn't Trophies in the national team? I'm just kidding. I think you could actually make a case for it, but I still think he's a little too young. Still a little.
You're gonna sell him to Europe already?
Yeah. It's a touch premature, and that's okay. I think we should not pile the pressure. I mean, at least if you're a Chivas supporter, you don't want to pile the pressure on this guy too early here.
Yeah, no.
Allow what's happening to happen. But I don't know. As far I think from the America angle, I think that they can still rebound pretty well from this. Mm-hmm. International break, have some time to regroup. Not a lot of players very active at this point either. So
it's also it's a good time to bring in a new manager. Gives them plenty of time to get adapted to the new team. If there was going to be a manager change, it'd have to be right now.
No, actually, I don't think that's a crazy thought. I think that if America wants to find a new manager, now's the time to do it. But sorry, Jason, you were saying.
I think even under Embry, still this team could still be a contender for the title. I mean, it really is just one game, and things just kind of got out of control for them, I think, on Saturday. And I think this team can still kind of rally, and I think they still have a good chance going to the Liguilla. So
Yeah,
I think. I think both of these clubs, because I mean, you certainly Chivas are on the rise, but I think America, I don't think we could really just spell their demise and their defeat just yet.
You know what I'm hoping for? I think it'd be exciting to see a rematch in the playoffs. I think there's a potential for that. I think once again, I think there's a potential. It's not like America's doing terribly. It's not like Chivas are doing terribly. I think, especially right now, I know Chivas are slightly below them right now in the standings, but with Matias Almeida putting in that faith in his young options, keeping players like Gallito and Gulli on the bench, and giving other options to young. We brought up trophies right there. I think that's going to provide him with a lot of momentum. I think it's going to provide him with a lot of confidence.
I will say this about Chivas. You guys are talking a big game about Chivas and playoffs and whatnot. I haven't seen Chivas play a decent game besides the Clasico. And we all know that, players get pumped up for a Clasico. They bring their extra motivator for a Clasico. But can Chivas put in this type of performance against a Querétaro when the motivation is not that high? Because I just remember seeing them losing 4-0 to Tijuana not too long ago.
I think we all know that any results right now, or any standings right now at Week 7 are completely irrelevant to the final standings.
We're halfway through the season.
No, I'm still gonna say it's irrelevant. You can't look at the top 8 right now and say that's exactly who's gonna be in the playoffs. I think there's still a lot of time. The season still has a long way to go.
Yeah, but
there could still be a lot of changes. There could still be a lot of.
My question is, can Chivas get motivated enough against other opponents? Because I still haven't seen it from them in this season. All I've seen is a really good game against America, and that's all.
I don't know. I disagree. I mean, I think we've seen the defense. I mean, I think we've seen the Chivas defense really playing up most weeks, and I mean, I think going into high pressure Liguilla matches, I mean, this is what you want the team to have established, and I think they have established that. So I don't agree with that. I think we haven't seen the goals, and we're starting to see goals. But now that the goals are coming, I think you're getting the bigger results and the bigger hype. But they've been doing pretty well, shutting other teams down. They just haven't been scoring goals.
Yeah, and I think because a lot of these options are young, because a lot of these options still, I'm not gonna say they still have plenty to prove, but they still have something to prove. I think they will be motivated. I think they'll be, this game will almost be a catalyst for them to at least do better. I'm not going to say they're going to finish in first place. I'm not going to say they're title contenders. I'm going to say that Chivas more than likely will be finishing in a top 8 worthy spot going to the playoffs. I think I could say the same thing for America too. I think those are just 2 prime candidates who are set for the playoffs.
But say finishing in the top 8, that's that's
worthy of going to the playoffs.
That's success for Chivas. With America, that's a fire the manager.
That's a different conversation at all. You could still win it with America. You could still win a title and you'll still be fired as a manager.
Standards are different at America.
Johnny, right now it's okay, Johnny. You just lost. What you're doing is you're still trying to prove that America is still a little bit better than Chivas. It's okay. Maybe you'll have your moment. Maybe it'll be in the playoffs. It could be in the playoffs. It could be 4 years from now. You never know. It's all right, Johnny. We're here for you. Well, maybe Jason. All right, let's go to the rest of the result. Let's look at how the rest of the Liga MX weekend went. Let's look at. Really quickly. I'm just going to go through the scores, and like I mentioned before, if you just stop me if you feel like there's something to talk about. We had Tijuana beating Pumas 1-0. That was enough.
They're playing some great football, Tijuana. They
are. Johnny, we were both at that game. Johnny.
Yeah.
Talk about that match.
Tijuana once again, put a dominant performance at home, where they've scored, I think, it's 12 goals and allowed 0 at home. They've won all 4 games, including a 4-0 against Chivas. That's the biggest win they've had this season. But the big question with Tijuana is the away form. So far, they have the 1 win, which was at Cruz Azul, 1 draw and 1 loss. So that away form is still questionable. And coming after the international break, they have 2 consecutive away games to Pachuca and Monterrey. So those 2 games on the road are kind of going to set the tone for what Tijuana are going to do the rest of this season. I think they're off to a good start. if their focus was to avoid relegation, I think they've gone above and beyond. But I think they want slightly more than that.
Interestingly enough, there's actually a Copa MX match in between those two games, which is also an away match. So Tijuana is going to have 3 away matches next month within a
Which
span of 7
I, I,
days.
I can tell you this: Tijuana does not care whatsoever for the Copa MX, and I'm basing this on the lineup they presented at home against Lobos WAP in the last Copa MX match.
Mhm.
You can look at the starting 11 and look at the bench players that they had to sub. They have absolutely zero interest in Copa MX.
Well, I would disagree with you, but before we get into the Tijuana Copa MX podcast for the rest of the show, since we both watched their games, let's go over through the rest of the results. Johnny, I'll probably send you a text and bother you and just I guess disagree like we always usually do. All right, so wait, Querétaro, they
Do it
lost.
on Twitter so everyone can see.
There you go. We'll do it so everyone else can see. With Querétaro, they lost to Necaxa 2-1. That was, if I remember correctly, it was Necaxa's first win of the season.
Yep.
Tigres, they tied Veracruz, but once again, the Tigres are still undefeated, so I don't know if fans are really that bothered just yet, and they're still in a top 4 spot in the league. You had Atlas, who tied against Cruz Azul. Jason, do you want any comments about the 1-1 draw between Atlas and Cruz Azul? I mean, from my perspective, what is there to say? But
It's all been said before. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really has been all been said before.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing. They can't score, so they just can't score.
Yeah, I just had to give you an opportunity just because it's Cruz Azul. I can't just
Thanks for that,
gloss
man.
over, I can't just gloss over that and just
Good. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Pachuca, a 10-man Pachuca after a red card for Edvin Lozano, who was they're able to hold off Monterrey to 1-1 draw. We had Toluca and Morelia, who tied 2-2. We had Chiapas and Puebla, who scored 3 goals against Chiapas. And then I think one of the more exciting finishes of the weekend, I think there was actually a lot of. It seemed like now that I think about it, it seemed like there were a lot of matches that had some late goals. But Santos Laguna beat Leon 1-0, and that was a match in which Leon went down to 9 men, and about the 90, I think it was Carlos Guzman, who used to play in Tijuana. I think he got a red in the 91st minute, and then I forget exactly who was from Santos Laguna who scored the game-winning goal and providing Chepo de la Torre his first win as a Santos Laguna manager.
If Santos could have if Leon could have held on to that draw, the Quinela would be different aspect right now.
No, the unfortunate thing is that I don't even think half the people from the Mexican soccer show even care about the Quinela. I'll check it if I get 2 wrong. I'm like, yeah, you got it. Whatever, man.
The losers
You certainly don't. You certainly don't.
No. Well,
me and Jason are fighting for first place here.
King Jason, who somehow has some. I don't understand.
I'm in a close second. I think I'm overtaking in the next week after the break.
Yeah, we'll see. No, Jason's consistency.
I'm down by 1.
Jason's consistency is like that of Picolin and Net. It's really impressive.
Let it be known. I'm trailing Jason by 1 score, which could have been Leon holding Santos to a draw. That could have been the difference between Jason being up by 1 and me being up by 1.
All right. So, any final thoughts on the Liga MX weekend before I jump into the Europeos? Anything?
I think the Monterrey's performance in Pachuca was highly troubling. I mean, we've seen them kind of a run here of just troubling form, but man, they were just getting destroyed by Pachuca before the red card, and even after the red card, they took control of that match for about 10 minutes and then just fell apart again, and there was nothing. I mean, Pachuca was just consistently in better positions in that match, being a man down. And it was just, I don't know. And Pachuca's a team, certainly argument for the best team in Liga MX right now, defending champions, great team. But not necessarily the team that always has the biggest home field advantage. I mean, they've dropped a ton of games in Hidalgo. It's a great team. Monterrey, troubling what we're seeing from them right now.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree, especially because I would have assumed a little bit more from Rayados. I thought they would have been a little bit better. I still see Monterrey as one of the more talented, impressive teams in the league, and what you've seen from them right now, it is genuinely worrisome, especially when they can't get. I know it's Pachuca, but like you mentioned, especially when they can't get a victory against a 10-man Pachuca, missing Chucky Lozano. Johnny, any final thoughts on Liga MX weekend?
Yeah, is it over?
It's a tough time, Johnny. Like I said, I'm sure there's some America fans out there who are, but there's some sort of like supporters group. Actually, I saw something on Twitter that Tom posted saying that there's going to be some sort of protest for America fans this Wednesday or tomorrow or something like that, calling for the firing of Nacho and Beast.
There's actually a press conference tomorrow, so 50-50. Amris Dacer gets fired.
We'll see. We'll see, Johnny. Some of us are praying for you. Not all of us, but some are. So really quickly, let's go over the Europeos just to give you guys a quick update about what happened. Raul Jimenez, he scored over the weekend. That's his second goal in his last 2 games.
Yeah, celebrate like Cuauhtémoc Blanco.
He did. Actually, you know what? That is key. That is actually really key to bring up, and I think that would have been actually very significant. If America ended up winning that match later on, that would have been a fantastic day for America fans. And I think, especially with I think Jimenez is doing at least right now, the beginning of the season in Portugal. I think he's taking advantage of the opportunities he has right now. And after he did the qual, the pose, I think that would have been at least very cool for America fans.
After it's been a while since I've seen that celebration, so thank you, Raul Jimenez, for kind of letting me relive that. But I can't help but think that maybe Cam Newton and his dab looks very similar to Cuauhtémoc. So
I have no idea who Cam Newton.
Cam, the quarterback for Carolina Panthers.
I have no idea.
Oh my.
Is he related to Steve Young at all?
Yep, cousins.
Marco Fabian was on the bench for. Unfortunately, that's what manager Nico Kovac is saying right now. He's saying when he's looking at the roster list and he's seeing Marco Fabian, he's saying who? It doesn't look like he's gonna have to take advantage. He's gonna have to take advantage of some opportunity once he gets playing time. But the question is, I don't know when he's gonna get that playing time.
My initial prediction of him returning to Liga MX by Apertura 2017 still stands.
Honestly, I think I don't know if I could really argue against that, to be honest. I think that's yeah. Sorry, Jason, what was that?
I hope not. I mean, I think he has the talent. Unlike Johnny, I think he has the talent to play. I think wish he would be able to get some.
I think so too. But if you're a European club, even if you're like not even the top of the top, and you're someone like Anderlecht, like would you look at Fabian and be like, yeah, that's someone who I'm gonna.
Yeah, a team that has lick as part of their name wouldn't consider Fabian.
It's not. This isn't third grade, John. It's not lick. It's Anderlecht. Anywho, before we carry on with this conversation, this joke that Johnny brought up. All right, Fabian obviously struggling. He was on the bench for Frankfurt during the Bundesliga opener. We had Carlos Vela, who was subbed in for Real Sociedad. He still has a little bit to prove for that club, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that guy either makes a surprise move to Major League Soccer or if he just rides the bench half the season Real Sociedad. I think that's just where he's at right now, and I'm not really convinced by his work rate.
There would need to be an NBA franchise in whatever market he arrives to, though.
There you go. I don't understand why he's not following basketball in Europe. Although that might not be what he wants to watch out there. He wants to watch LeBron. Although I'm pretty sure he switched to the Warriors. I don't know.
Does Cleveland have an MLS team?
Columbus. There's Columbus. That's kind of close, right? I don't know anything about the East Coast. Is that close?
Yeah, close enough.
There you go. Let's make some calls. Some calls after this. All right. Guardado and Moreno both took part in the 0-0 draw to Groningen. I'm probably butchering that. That's way off. Groningen ended up going down to 10 players. Guardado Moreno, at least from what I saw, just highlight-wise, because the game was at 3:30 in the morning over here in California. So I stayed up to about 2-something. I couldn't. Wasn't able to watch the game, unfortunately. But it looked like, at least from the stats that I saw.
Yeah.
What a lack of commitment.
Get it together.
I stayed up to 2. I did my best. But anyway, what was interesting for me is that Guardado had over 100 passes that game. Over 100. It was just. I think that says a lot about what his I don't know.
How many of them were forward?
Actually, from what I saw, it was about 90. He had a pass success rate of 90-something%. I don't know how many of them were forward, but I'll talk to my contact in PSV Eindhoven. All right.
He's good.
Yeah,
I can successfully play the ball back to my keeper 100 times.
All right, Johnny. Next, we're gonna talk about Guillermo Ochoa.
Oh,
What do you like to say about Guillermo Ochoa, Johnny?
Can we talk about El Tri again?
No. Let's bring up Guillermo Ochoa. Guillermo Ochoa.
Jesus Christ, what a weekend! What a weekend!
5 goals against Las Palmas. 5 goals, Johnny. And you know what? Honestly, I'm gonna say
it's not the amount. It's the way a certain goal went in.
Yes, exactly. And I think that the problem is, I will say that Granada, from what I've seen and from what looking up some stats from last season, they're the kind of team that allows a lot of goals, the kind of team that has a very poor defense, and I saw that. And that said, Johnny, when you saw that goal, Johnny, was that national team quality? That moment. Honestly, you know what? Honestly,
luckily for me, I was already hiding under a rock because of El Clasico when this happened. So,
honestly, I want Ochoa to do well too. I know that this has nothing to do about America Chivas. I want him to do well. And after I saw that, it crushed me when I saw that opportunity. Like, it crushed me when I saw him go out like Talavera-esque in the Olympics.
Is it possible to crush broken glass? Because that's about.
All right, we have let's look over to Porto. They lost 2-1 to Sporting. We had Tecatito, Hector Herrera, and I was gonna say Diego Reyes. Diego Reyes was nowhere to be found. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And Miguel Layun, who all started in that game. Layun finished the game with an assist. He now has 2 assists and 1 goal in his last 3 games. Herrera, he struggled a little bit in the midfield. I'm still a little unconvinced by him, but he's bounced back from more difficult times in Porto. And we had Tecatito, who was unfortunately substituted out during halftime due to an injury. And from what we've seen, it's actually been enough to keep him in Portugal and be replaced.
I usually wish them well, Porto and the 3 Mexicans, but I'm still a little mad that they eliminated my beloved Roma from Champions League. So,
John, you might be the only Mexico fan that I know that supports Roma.
I love Roma. I've loved Roma since 2001.
You explain it to me. It seems so strange to me.
Francesco Totti, the Italian Cuauhtémoc Blanco.
That's actually, there's some merit to that. I think that's a good comparison.
There we go. We have two Roma fans here, and one Fiorentina fan apparently, because Carlos Salcedo, he was on the bench for Fiorentina. Although we can get a little bit excited about that because he was on the bench, you also have to keep in mind that Serie A, you can have up to 12 subs in that league.
Only 3.
What was that?
They can only do 3 subs.
No. 12
Oh dear.
12 bench players. 12 bench players. That's it. It's just semantics, man. Semantics. Yeah. So he's already been a part of the game day roster, which is nice to see. Whether he's going to get playing time in the near future, I have no idea. I mean, they have the Europa League, which is good. Hopefully, we can see some opportunity for him up there. But yeah, no, that goes through the list. I mean, we could talk about Diego Reyes again, but Diego Reyes, we have yet to see what's going to happen with him. I think more than likely, it seems like he's going to stay in Portugal, stay in Europe, and try to make a last-minute transfer before sitting on the Porto B bench. Who even knows?
I know a team in Mexico that could use Diego Reyes' services.
Oh my God, no. Jason, any thoughts? So we're gonna wrap up the show in a bit.
Sweet home, Diego.
Jason, we're gonna wrap up the show in a bit. I'm gonna ask you guys your predictions for the Mexico game in San Salvador. But before that, any last thoughts on the Europeos?
I'm just looking at Thursday, right? Thursday, I think, is our transfer deadline. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And I'm just thinking about those Porto guys. I think they're. I think any one of them can move. Probably not Tecatito, but I think there's a possibility. You never know what's going to happen in these last couple of days. So just staring at that timeline and just seeing what's going to happen with those guys. I'm really interested to see if some will move, and kind of hoping that Hector Herrera does move. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think he needs a move. I think he's I would like to see him move. I think No, he's been a little quiet, at least for the games that I've seen in Porto. He's been a little. There's something a little bit off about him. Whether
That's right.
maybe it's thinking about making a trade, whether it's the fact that Porto potentially considering sending him and getting a huge amount of cash. But yeah, there's been something a little off about it. I want to see honestly, who I'd be excited to see move without. I think Layun. I think Layun would be interesting, especially since right now Layun is technically a backup to Alex Tellez right now. Layun had to start as a right back because Tellez was starting
right
left
back
back.
is his natural position, by the
No,
way.
no, I know that.
That's the position he first played.
I know. That's just making an excuse for the fact that a new up and coming exciting Brazilian was brought into the team, starting at left back.
Goddamn up and coming. Goddamn up and coming.
But pushed Lyon onto the bench. I want Lyon to start. I want him to get minutes. He's going to get minutes. But yeah, I would like to see. I think Lyon. I mean, you just look at the amount of assists that he had last season, and I think a lot of teams would be drooling over him, excited about the opportunity to bring him in. Johnny, any thoughts on the Europeos? The Europe AOS.
Not much. What's my tocayo up to?
What, Ávila Hurtado? He's over at
No, my tocayo, not my cousin. My tocayo, Jonathan.
Dos Santos. He's still injured. He's still injured.
injured.
Yeah. Sometimes I see stuff on Instagram of him like doing exercises that I don't understand.
When is that guy not injured?
Actually, people talk about that a lot, but he's actually played a decent amount of time within the past couple of years.
Really?
Yeah. Anywho, we'll save that for the second part of the Cholos Copa MX podcast / what is Jonathan Dos Santos up to right now / will he be going to MLS because Gio said that he could potentially go over there in the United States podcast.
Well, I think the Galaxy has a new DP spot open up, don't they now, that they're getting rid of Nigel de Jong? So
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Slide Vela right in there.
I can also see Giovanni Dos Santos in Galaxy and Jonathan Dos Santos in LAFC.
That's depressing.
Before we really get into that, LAFC they're gonna bring in a major Mexican name. They have to. They have to do that. Like, I think they're gonna bring someone in. They're gonna splash a lot of cash for someone like that. I'm still saying it's gonna be Chicharito. I don't want it to happen, but I'm saying it's Chicharito.
I think it's Maza Rodriguez, but
what's Massa doing nowadays? Anyways, what's he up to? I have no idea.
He's just hanging out.
He's just hanging out. All right, guys, we have Mexico's taking on El Salvador this Friday. It's gonna be an away match. It's a World Cup qualifying match, but Mexico has already qualified for the hexagonal. We already know that Mexico is going to be, regardless of, as I mentioned, regardless of any of the results that we have seen already, they're going to be taking part in the hexagonal. Guys, what is going to be? What are your predictions? It doesn't even have to be. It could be a scoreline. It could even be what's going to happen. What's going to happen this Friday night? Jason, what are your thoughts?
I could see a kind of a lackluster performance get the win, 1-0, kind of maybe a 2-1 kind of deal. I don't know. I don't know. Like, you could see them having trouble scoring again. So I mean, I think there's going to be a fair share of disappointment around these two games, and I don't think it's really fair because I think it's a strange roster, and you have to question how much the players are really going out there into these games killing themselves to get a result. Because why would they? Because the result's not important. But I don't know. I could see there being some strife around these games. I think is my general prediction.
Yeah, I don't think that's a ridiculous prediction. I think Mexico is going to get 2 wins, but they're going to be very close. Johnny, any predictions for?
Yeah, I'm not going to be disappointed. Come Friday, I'm going to get some garlic mild chicken wings from Wings and Things with an order of breadsticks. That's gonna be great. As far as Mexico, they're not gonna win in El Salvador. Mexico just does not win in El Salvador.
I like the prediction, Johnny. Can you send me one of those garlic mild chicken wings?
Yeah.
Honestly,
you're welcome to come along.
Honestly, I have actually had the garlic mild chicken wings that Johnny's talking about, which I laughed about. They're actually quite good. Right, Joe, we went down before we even do one. I'm gonna say before we get into garlic mild chicken wings, I'm gonna say that Mexico wins 1-0. I know it's not the best result, but I think Mexico's gonna narrowly scrape by.
I'm gonna 1-1 draw.
All right. All right. 1-1 draw. All right. All right. Well.
Whoever is in goal, even my beloved Ochoa, will be at fault for the goal.
All right.
Talavera, Corona, they're all going to be at fault for the goal.
Well, thanks, guys. Thank you for joining on to the chat. Shane, thank you to everyone who is on the actual YouTube chat.
Hey, about the chat.
I don't know if
I wanted to hang out on the chat, chat along with everyone. But as soon as I closed down the YouTube on my Chromebook, my internet connection started being better, so I can participate in this podcast. Therefore, I was unable to participate in the YouTube chat.
They're lost. They're lost.
Well, thank you to everyone. I know actually Wisa usually does a good job of bringing out specific people. Thank you, Giovanna Sanchez. Thank you, Jolie, also known as JoelBot77.
What they say about me?
Jesse Perez. I know something about liking mild, not liking a mild, but liking like medium garlic chicken wings or whatever. Salo Jimenez.
Well, aren't they badass?
M-Guy24. Let's see who else is on here. Is it just all 5 of you? I have no idea. I don't know. It says 30 people are watching. Anywho.
All right. Shout out to my mom.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Johnny. And we'll be talking to you soon. Hopefully next Monday before the next match. So thank you all. Have a good night.